movie. Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Liberty Libations. I think that we popped up before the title started.
Really?
Sweet.
I think we looked ridiculous for literally half a second. That was really fun. Sorry for the delay. That was all me. I'm having technical difficulties. My internet might go out a couple times. I think there are forest fires in the area. There was one about 6 miles away from me the past couple days, and it was trying to head this way, which was worrisome. Hannah, welcome to the show. Anyway, my name is Jake Green. I'm joined by Steven, Alden, Nick, and Zane as usual. And tonight, our special guest is my brother, Matthew Green, or Matt Green, I guess is he prefers to be called these days. I guess for the
last 25 years, but yeah.
25. Give me a break. It has not been 25. Okay. I'll accept 20.
So does it run in the family that you can only grow hair on the bottom half of your head?
It's a choice, Zane. It's a choice. Yeah, so for anybody listening, me and my brother sound very similar, so I apologize if you can't tell the difference between the two of us.
Would you like me to talk in a Cockney accent the whole time?
Please, God, don't. I might just end every sentence with "you jerk," and we'll see how that goes, so people know that
and Matt should end with "in bed."
My daughter's watching this stream, Alden.
That's your first mistake.
You should have warned us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his daughter is currently less than 6 months old, so
yeah, she can't understand it. But it's just I don't want to.
But subconsciously, it's gonna reprogram in a bad way. I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Well, but there's good ideas being spread on this. You know, we're getting to them young.
That's true.
I could do it.
That's very true.
Coming for your children.
Yeah, this will be the time that we get ixnayed from YouTube here.
Goodness gracious! All right, y'all. What have y'all been up to this week? Any updates from the Libertarian world? Your personal lives that you want to share? Anything like that before we jump into our topics?
I unpacked my blue light.
I see you actually have lighting this time.
Yeah, I have my lamp. I have my color light. And a curtain, yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Steven, what you been up to?
Just working my butt off, man. It's been great, but it's also dominates my free time. So
nice. Yep,
yeah.
No, I get it. Zane,
he also has to leave to unload furniture in a minute, so don't mind him.
Yeah.
Zane, you got anything going on?
So Libertarian Party of Fulton County, we've been helping our executive director, Elizabeth, with her Banish Big Brother project. So we've been sending in some Freedom of Information Act requests to the city of Sandy Springs about the various technologies they're using to spy on us. I sent one a couple months back just with a huge list of different technologies. And then they wrote back to me saying that if I wanted them to process their request, if I wanted them to process my request, it would take about $600 because apparently they're spying on us so much that just for them to tell me how much they're spying on me would take $600 worth of effort. So now we're dividing it up.
Did you look into that?
Chunks.
Because, like, did they? Is it because you sent too large of a list, like, or is it like did they think you wanted hard copies? Because I've because I've looked into like the local school district here because I'm thinking about hitting them with some open records and seeing what kind of fucked up shit they're doing. and I looked at it and it was like, oh, it's X amount per page, or it's free if we just send you the electronic copies of it. And I'm like, well, I want the electronic stuff if I'm gonna do it. So
they bill you based off of the estimated time that it's gonna take for them to go through all the records. So they came back with some crazy estimate of how it was going to take like 25 hours worth of work for them to do it.
Wow.
But we think that if we can divide it up into small enough chunks, because the first 15 minutes of work is free, which it might be a challenge to get a small enough chunk that it only takes them 15 minutes. But that's what we're going to try.
I mean, we're talking government work here, right?
So in order for you to know what the government is doing behind your back without you knowing, you have to pay them an hourly rate to go get that information for you, even though that information is supposed to be free for us.
Your information.
That's
you
great.
Own it,
That's
right?
great. That's
honestly wonderful. I wonder if that would be grounds on a lawsuit against them. Like, well, you can't like charge us for every little document that we ask for. Like,
they can't charge us for anything. If it's freedom of information, especially if you're getting it electronically, it should be completely free every single time, because it's our information.
Yeah.
Well, you would think that, but you would come up against a bureaucrat telling you pay us $600 or else you get squat.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
And that's why maybe you need to like go ask Martin or someone like,
yeah.
Hey, is this something that we might be able to sue on and just
go.
like cause a little bit of bullshit that way? Like, yeah, you guys are going to do this, so I'm just going to slap you with a lawsuit, and it's my friend doing it. So like, you know, it's going to cost you more time and headaches than it's going to cost me.
There we go. All right. Well, more intro stuff. Matthew, why don't you introduce yourself and tell people who you are and like what you're up to?
I'm your brother. That's the most important thing.
I feel like that's the least important.
I got to cut up for just a few minutes, guys. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Cool. Go move furniture.
What are we going to do without Steven? I don't even know. I just insulted him. I guess
it's a reflex. It's fine.
I'm just raising a daughter, sort of. Hannah's doing the heavy lifting, but
she's not too heavy yet, though, right?
No, we just weighed her. She's almost 18 pounds. So.
All right, you can do some
nice little curling weight. You know?
Yeah, a few squats every day. You know, that's decent resistance.
Big time, though.
All right, Nick. Do you have any updates from your neck of the woods, or are we good to launch in?
I continue to keep working on Bitcoin Caucus. I was on the Mises Caucus PA podcast earlier this week, promoting that and talking through, you know, some news and trying to get some help them with some content. So, did that, and yeah, so we're still building the Bitcoin Caucus, and you can follow us on Twitter at Bitcoin Caucus, and if you click the link tree, you can hop in our Discord, or any of our other social medias we got. So
nice,
you know, come follow us and see what we're starting to do over there, because it's going to be cool. At least,
didn't the Mises Caucus start a podcast?
There's been a national one for a while. There's actually like 2 or 3 different shows going on the national one, but then like Pennsylvania's got their own also.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, Zane reminded me when he started talking about Fulton County. If you find this interesting, if you enjoy what we provide, go to lpgeorgia.com to learn more about the Libertarian Party of Georgia and what we're doing. We have tons of resources there, lots of information for you to get. You can contact literally anybody in our organization, and we will be happy to tell you about what we do and how we're spreading freedom and liberty for everybody around Georgia. And with this podcast, how we're sowing discontent and paranoia throughout the entire country. So
Jake, Hannah says that you need to start tweeting out when we're live on the LP Georgia account.
I guess technically I'm in charge of LP Georgia's Twitter. But, I should do that. You're right. You're 100% correct. I'm a failure. That's my fault. All right, Mr. Producer, Zach, let's go into our first story, man. We got a 3-minute video from our favorite, Peter St. Onge.
2 days ago, credit rating agency Fitch downgraded the federal debt. Are we moving from the gradually stage to the suddenly stage? Fitch is one of the big 3 credit rating outfits, together with Moody's and S&P, and they dropped the federal government from their highest rating, AAA, to their second highest, AA+, adding they see a, quote, steady deterioration that could suggest more cuts to come if nothing improves. Now, given the federal deficit is up 170% on last year.
Uh-oh.
Is that Jake's internet?
Well, we can
Nope,
speak to
that's-
that, I guess. But
That's Zach's internet.
oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah. I might have to pull it up.
Jeez.
I got it, y'all. Don't worry.
is Twitter still
10%
called
of
Twitter?
GDP by 2025, which is more than 2.5 times the AAA country median of 39%. So it was already a friend rating. Fitch cited the repeated last-minute debt ceiling standoffs amid 20 years of deterioration in, quote, fiscal and debt matters. Biden's staff added that January 6th was a factor, which Fitch didn't mention in their report, but extra points for creativity. Note, this kind of downgrade did happen once before in the 2011 debt ceiling clash, that time by S&P. Because our nation is governed by laws, 2 weeks later, the federal government opened an investigation whether S&P caused the 2008 mortgage crisis, at which point S&P fired its CEO, so that was just 18 days from downgrade to unemployment. Even NBC, which wasn't quite as bootlicky back then, connected the dots and questioned the timing. So we will see if any Fitch executives get that pink slip, but so far the administration has, of course, strongly disagreed with the downgrade, with Janet Yellen saying Fitch used, quote, outdated numbers, to which Zero Hedge responded, yes, they are outdated. Debt payments have actually doubled to roughly $1 trillion. And the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, is now projecting a $50 trillion national debt. So what is the impact of the downgrade? In theory, higher interest rates on government debt, meaning a rise in that $1 trillion we already spend on debt service, itself on track to $1.6 trillion this year. If federal debt is now risky, that makes investors nervous, so they require higher rates, which could push us towards $2 trillion in debt service. By the way, the entire federal government only collects about twice that, $4.8 trillion, meaning almost half of every tax dollar could soon go to servicing, not paying off mine, just servicing old debt. Still, it is worth noting that last time in 2011, the opposite happened. Stocks fell, but treasuries and the dollar actually rose in a flight to safety typical of any crisis. So near term, that could happen again, even if longer term is a weaker dollar and higher debt interest. The fundamental issue here is that the U.S. government is spending like a drunk sailor with a stolen credit card. They're also drinking like drunk sailors. And even intimidation of credit rating agencies is not hiding the fact. I would not hold my breath for anything to change. The feds will just pay any higher interest with yet more debt. As always, accelerating the crash instead of fixing it, kicking that can over and over until you kick it and it doesn't budge. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.
All right. So that's Mr. Peter St. Onge. If you don't know who he is, go look him up on Twitter. He is fantastic. Puts out many videos on what's happening in the economy. Great economist.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yeah, he's very good.
It's also hilarious.
First of all, the snarkiness of this particular video is fantastic.
I love it.
I hope he keeps that up because he has not always done that. He gets a little dry sometimes. So adding a little bit of
This
humor
one was
to
the
it.
funniest one I've heard from him. I loved it. Yeah.
They're also drinking like drunk sailors.
The bit about Yellen being like, it's outdated information. He's like, you're right. And now it's projected even worse. Like, so you're better off with the old one. Like,
I mean, it's absolutely insane that apparently our credit rating is still good. I mean, we're on track to, not be able to make our debt payments by.
Yep.
I mean,
it will be very soon. And like, not only that, Janet Yellen stood before Congress and said she is trying to get to $50 trillion.
I was going to say a trillion. Yeah.
She that was a goal of hers because apparently going into more debt is a good thing. And so it was a goal of theirs to get to $50 trillion worth of debt. And at the same time,
an article I saw today from The Guardian called that was saying Bidenomics is working. And I'm like, gas prices are almost at $4. We're on track for $50 trillion in debt. The credit rating downgraded. Like, what's actually working here?
What is working? I mean, food. I'm pretty sure
failing like crazy.
I think the stat that I saw, banks are failing left and right. I think the stat that I saw is that I think it was 5 years ago with a certain amount of money, you could buy the same groceries, or no, you could buy 25% 75% more groceries 5 years ago. Than
We got
could,
there.
than you can today. We got there. Yeah. It just sometimes it takes me a while. I read all these stats all day long, and that's just
Yeah, 25%. No,
it's how
the
it
other
goes.
side, 75%.
Yeah,
Always.
75%.
No, never
And that-
go out in a blizzard.
So it's not just gas. Gas isn't always the best tell. It's got to be a conglomeration of everything packed into one. And then you also have to look at very specific things to know what's happening. Because just shutting down the Keystone pipeline is going to mean higher gas prices. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything for the economy in general. But
It can, but it doesn't have to. Like the rectangle and the square rule kind of thing. Yeah.
Correct. And so the fact that Biden is sitting there, the whole administration is sitting there saying, we're not in a recession, the economy's fine. He's brought back more jobs, or he's acquired more jobs than any president.
13 million jobs, Jake. 13 million.
He got 13 million jobs that just out of thin air. It's not like they ever existed before, 4 years ago.
Yeah, but there's 3 million people dying a day from guns. So
no, I thought it was 3 million black people.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
Who there was some communist or socialist making the argument that 25% of black people are killed each year by cops.
What?
In America.
We have like 5 people left.
And to finish or to try to find a compromise in the debate with, I forget who was debating. He said, okay, can we say it's 15% then? And the guy was like, no. It's like
barely 15. It's barely 15.
If you put 4 zeros in front of
total.
15.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh man, yeah. He was basically like, if that was the scenario, then there would be no black people left in like 6 months.
Yeah. Pick a starting point, and then absolutely no one left in, or fraction. Like you'd have like a half of a person left.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think the reason why they're still assigning, the AA plus rating, which is still pretty good, and not actually giving it a bad rating, is that ultimately the government can just co-opt the Fed to just monetize all of the debt that they produce. So if the U.S. wants to, they can just print the money to pay off all the debt, regardless of however much debt they go into. So there are kind of two things that I think Fitch could be looking at.
While not a default, in my mind, that's still a default because you're.
Let him finish. Let him finish, Nick. Let him finish.
So the first scenario that Fitch could be looking at here is that they actually default, which can really only happen if Congress decides we're not going to pay this, which from a libertarian perspective, I would actually welcome, because I think that almost everything that the government does with the money that gets loaned to it is deeply immoral, and people should not loan to the government. And if the lenders get defaulted on by the government, that's probably a good thing. But the other thing that Fitch could be looking at, which is much more worrying, is the possibility that all the debt gets monetized, which would cause very, very bad inflation, much worse than we're seeing now even. And so that the bondholders would be getting paid back in money that's worth substantially less than the money that they lent to it. And if that's happening, that could very well be causing the credit decrease as well.
For sure. And I think Janet Yellen, when she was saying their goal is 50 million, is that they're going to sell debt to other countries. 50 trillion. I keep saying million. Idiot. 50 trillion. They were going to sell debt.
And it's 1820.
Like, like at that point, like, who's going to buy that debt? Who actually thinks we're going to pay back our debts? Like, at some point, you've already dug yourself so deep that no one is going to buy your debt, and so you're just going to sit with that. Oh, you think?
Japan's currently holding the bag. Do they want another nuke? Keep buying it.
Didn't Japan back off of some of their yield curve controls, or they did something with their yield curve, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They, like I said, currency manipulation. Once it gets up in that level, once the dollar is worth more than 140 yen, they will not sustain that for longer than a month. Both countries get together and manipulate their currency to get it back down into a manageable channel. They want it to be anywhere from 100 to 130 yen. They want it in that range. And it gets out of that range, they get together and make changes.
Interesting.
Yes. So when you talk about nobody wanting to buy our debt anymore, it could be very easy to get into a vicious cycle where if you just keep printing money, investors will notice that they're getting paid back in less valuable money. So they demand higher interest rates, which causes you to have to pay more money on debt service, which causes you to have to print more money, which causes you to have to pay even higher interest rates, and so on and so forth. But I mean, I guess the one saving grace for the U.S. regime is that countries like Japan and China that have tons and tons of our debt, if they try to not roll it over, like if they say, we're not buying any more of your bonds, we demand to be repaid, that could cause such a crisis that it might be terrible for their economy too, and they might just put up with it and keep rolling the debt over.
At this level, I'm surprised that China hadn't gotten like a $5 trillion middle finger for the damage they did to us in 2020.
Yeah, no kidding.
Among other things. So it's just, and we're not innocent in this whole debacle either. But there's things that they have knowingly and deliberately done to us that has undoubtedly damaged our economy. So, at least for the COVID thing, I mean, that because pretty sure Congress had some hearings on this, and it was kind of a slam dunk that whether or not it was intentional, that's where it came from.
Yeah, but when you have a president who's taking money from Chinese Communist Party or Chinese companies.
Hey, he's not taking it. His son's taking it and kicking 10% up to the big guy.
My bad.
That's right. That's right. And they have plans, by the way, to build the world's largest LNG plant or LNG port in Ukraine with Chinese money.
Great. Did you? Gosh, we're gonna get so sidetracked if we keep going on this. No. I'm fine with it. We can get sidetracked because I was about to go down the fact that Biden just asked Congress if he could spend money that was meant for Ukraine in Taiwan.
Yep.
Really?
I'm surprised he even felt like he had to ask Congress.
I'm surprised he asked too. It's probably because he's senile. He probably forgot he doesn't have to ask.
The only reason he asked, yeah.
Did he ask or did Jake Sullivan ask?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well,
he also asked for an ice cream in the same sentence. Hey, can we use Ukraine money for Taiwan? And I need another double scoop, please.
And can I get a fresh diaper over here?
All right. Well, do we have anything else to say about our primary topic on the night? Because we just burned through it in 20 minutes.
Well, I was just going to say, Zane said something about the AA+, but I figured they did AA+ just so that poor guy at Fitch didn't get fired like the S&P guy did. He didn't want to take it too low. He just kept it a little high, so he
didn't want it to be too accurate. Yeah.
Well, apparently, Chef at Martha's Vineyard is his second choice of career, so he's going to play it safe a little bit.
Hopefully,
Some of the defenses, like I saw that Yellen had to it, though, it was beyond just they're using outdated information. It was between Yellen and like Jamie Dimon, and I also saw Warren Buffett say, "Oh, I'm still buying treasuries every month, every week, whatever."
Well, what was it? It was last November. They had the 6-month T-bonds that had 10.5% yield on them. So that's one of the things you can benefit from in that inverted yield curve is you can get some short-term gains out the wazoo, man. If they got 6 or 12-month T-bonds that are going for double-digit returns, you better hop on that. Especially if $100 now, 6 months from now is worth 90.
What's a T-bond?
Treasury bonds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was like like Boston Tea Party bonds. Like what's going on?
Yeah, so they have certain time frames, and you have to let them mature. There's penalties if you cash them in before their maturity.
Right.
But once they're fully mature.
Do they ever like waive that at all? Because I know with like municipal bonds, they sometimes waive that to get them to like move faster or whatever.
They will for municipal bonds, but I don't like for the consumer level for us.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, anyways. I'm not a banker.
All right.
Yeah. Don't even play one on a podcast.
You wouldn't. If you were, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would be on Epstein Island.
Mm-hmm. All right, y'all. I believe it's trivia time. Zach, let's do it, brother.
Have a drop.
I forfeit.
There we go. All right. Libations trivia. Let me pull it up. Sorry, I had it up, and then I had to restart my computer.
So
We forgive you.
Thank you. All right. Libations trivia 8-3-23. This day in history, prison and football. Everybody knows the rules. I'm not going to go over them again. Matthew, the main rule is to answer a question,
I'm
you
just going
cover
to get
the
them
camera.
all right. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
You have to cover the camera to answer the question. There you go.
That's why I got
You
my
got-
football.
You got to do it quick because Zane will beat you.
Because Zane basically just has his hand there the whole time. Although
All
Zane's a
right.
Swiftie, so I don't know if he actually knows anything on the football, which I don't know anything either. But
All-time
that might be
scoreboard. Zane 6, Nick 3, Steve 1, audience 1, guest 1, Alden 0. one of these days, Alden. One of these days, man.
yeah, I did pretty
I'm gonna
good.
do one on
Steelers.
art, just art.
Pittsburgh Steelers trivia.
Steelers trivia, art I can do okay. Zach did one on drugs, and he was like, "I did one for you," and that round I did really well. But I still didn't win.
I'll do drugs, guns, and art for you.
There you go.
One day, Alden.
Yeah.
All right, round 1. It still says the day in history. I had to not fix it yet again.
The day.
I don't mind it, actually.
On this day in 1958, nuclear submarine Nautilus was the first submarine in history to do what? Zane.
Go to the deepest point in the ocean.
Wrong. Alden, you got to cover the camera, man. You know where your camera is.
I really don't. Oh, there it is.
Alden, go.
Test launch.
No. Matt.
I was going to say circumnavigate the globe.
Nope. Steven.
Stay submerged for longer than any other submarine ever has.
Nope. Nick.
fire a missile.
Nope. Alden.
Fire a missile at a
No.
giant Martian robot. It was in the Iron Giant. It was a documentary.
Hannah says go to the moon.
Yeah,
Nick.
that's something.
Nick, go.
Go 20,000 leagues under the sea.
Wrong. Our audience gets it correct. Go to the North Pole. They went
Where
underneath-
they nuked a
That's just
squid.
not even cool, though, really. Like,
Yeah, they went underneath.
everybody's going
the
to
North Pole.
you know?
Why'd they do that? It's hollow.
Audience taking the early lead. Zane didn't know something, y'all. Everybody celebrate. Should we drink to that?
He was
That's
so
not
quick.
even. That's
Zane
not
was
even
so
like a
quick
real
on that.
question.
Who cares? I don't care. Zane got one wrong. There we go. All right. Question number 2. On this day in 1923, a vice president was promoted after the president died. Who are the 2 men? Zane.
Warren Harding and the OG Calvin Coolidge.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Nailed it. All right. Question number 3. On this day in 1996, this song topped the U.S. pop charts and stayed in the top 100 for a record-breaking 60 weeks. What song was it? Matthew.
Who let the dogs out?
No.
It's too early
Steven.
for that one.
Freak Nasty to dip.
No. Alden.
Every day is a winding road. Show
Wrong. Wrong.
I'm like 1996. What came out in 96?
Zane, go.
Believe.
No. Nick, you got an answer?
I got nothing on this one. I can't think of who would be around tonight. I was 4 years old.
All right. It's open for everybody.
Smells like Teen Spirit.
What? No. You still got to raise your hand.
Can we get a genre?
Steven,
like,
wrong.
Okay.
Okay. I'll say this. It's equally as idiotic as Who Let the Dogs Out. It's a... Matthew, you get to answer.
What's the song that's like, it's tricky, it's tricky.
The
I thought it was
audience,
earlier
the
than
audience
90s.
got it right. The
Oh
Macarena.
no! Oh my god!
If we lose to the audience, I'm
Does
firing
that
Zane.
count as a song?
The
That's
Macarena was in the top 100 for 60
60
weeks.
weeks?
That's sad.
That's
What the hell
Can
was
you
wrong with
imagine-
people in
Can you
96?
imagine being that sad to that's your top 100 song for that long?
They
I
didn't have
still
much
do it to this
internet.
day at every wedding I ever go to.
Well, it is at every wedding ever. It's absurd. I hate it. All right.
It's the only reason I refuse to get married.
Next question. On this day in 1492, what did Columbus do, Matt?
He sailed the ocean blue.
He said sail across.
Yeah.
I was going to say the
love-
exact same thing.
Me too. Yeah, it's like locked in there, man.
Why do you think I worded it like that? So it would rhyme. It's way better. On this day in 1949, a league was born for a certain American sport. What sport and what league? Steven.
It was the American Football League, and for American football.
Wrong. Matt.
I'm gonna say it was the ABA for basketball.
Wrong. Zane.
I'm gonna say it's the NBA for basketball.
NBA for basketball. There you go.
But the ABA was first. Maybe it was. And
it was
in
first.
1949.
Correct. Yep.
I thought Matt, if there was sports questions, was going to edge out Zane, but apparently not.
Matt,
I thought ABA was first.
Yeah, ABA was first. Yep. Here we go. On this day in 1914, which two countries declared war on each other? Zane.
Serbia and Austria-Hungary.
Wrong. Matt.
Is it not Prussia and Austria-Hungary?
Wrong. Nick.
I'd say the Austrians and the Germans and the Russians.
Wrong. Steven.
The French and the Prussians.
Wrong. Alden. You got 5 seconds, Alden.
The Spanish and the French. I'm going to make history right up as we
All right.
go here.
Before we go to everybody, both of the countries have been said, just not as a pair.
Of course.
Matt, go.
Austria-Hungary and Russia.
Wrong. Nick.
Serbia and Russia?
Nope. Zane.
Germany and Russia.
Wrong.
I said that.
Oh, you did?
Germany and France.
That's
Nice.
The audience got it again.
And then France surrendered immediately.
Germany didn't even want to go to war with France as much as
That's
they
the
wanted to go
Maginot
to-
Line, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
I feel like
Maginot
I
was
won
World
War
half
II.
points, you know.
Wasn't Maginot World War II?
Oh, maybe.
I
Okay.
don't know. Next question. On this day in 1984, this woman became the first American gymnast to win an individual Olympic gold medal. Matthew.
Is that not oh my gosh, I just forgot her name.
You got
I'll
5
say
seconds.
Mary Lou Retton, but it's the other one.
It's Mary Lou Retton.
Oh,
I thought
There
it. What's
you
the other girl that broke her foot?
I know. I can't remember her name either.
Yeah,
Like if you
But
said
she
it,
didn't
I would
win.
know it.
yeah.
Did she? Yeah,
She
she
forgets
did.
the losers.
I feel like she did win, but it wasn't that year.
Michael
yeah.
Phelps.
It was a different year. She won. Yeah.
I was gonna say Jackie Joyner Kersey, but that was not. Right.
It's not right.
It's Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Hey, we're bringing things back from 3 shows ago. That's
Yeah.
great.
For anyone
All right.
that wasn't watching, yeah.
Next question. On this day in 1941, this American entrepreneur and domestic lifestyle innovator was born. Zane.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart.
Good Lord.
Jeez, Zane.
I mean, I couldn't think of anybody else who would meet the description of domestic lifestyle innovator.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's a
fair,
ridiculous term. It's a ridiculous term.
Maybe Zac
Next,
Efron.
yeah.
He's not that
1941.
old.
Next question. On this day in 1940, what country was accepted into the USSR following the Soviet occupation of the Baltic states? Matt.
I don't know. I'm just trying to beat Zane, but I'm going to say it's Lithuania.
Hang on. Before I forget who it is, and I can't see the next title. Can't see the next one. Give me 2 seconds. I got to make sure. What country did you say, Matthew?
Lithuania.
Nailed it.
Wow.
You got like a 1 in 5 shot, right?
I was going to say Brazil, you know.
You've actually got a 1 in 3 shot.
Is that right? Yeah, I don't know.
Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia.
Estonia. Yeah, those are the 3.
Was it the only 3 in the
Only
Baltics?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yugoslavia?
Belarus kind of
I guess
fall into
Finland's
it also?
Scandinavian, right? Although it's right there next to the Baltic Sea.
Interesting. All right, final question around one.
Not Brazil?
On this day in 1960, which African country gained its independence from France? Zane.
Algeria.
Wrong. Matthew.
Senegal.
Wrong. Steven.
Gambia.
Wrong. Alden was next. Nick, you're after that.
Ethiopia.
Wrong.
Morocco.
Wrong.
It's geographically close.
Did somebody touch the camera? Sorry, I was gone for a second.
Yeah, I did.
Matt, go.
Ghana.
Nope. Steven.
Senegal.
Nope. Alden.
Already said
Zimbabwe.
Nope. Nick.
Ivory Coast.
No. Zane.
Benin.
No.
that. Boy, the French really did some colonizing.
Steve is incorrect. Hannah is incorrect. Y'all have 10 seconds. Matthew.
No. Tunisia.
No. Steven.
Namibia.
No. Nick.
Western Sahara.
No. Alden.
Niger.
It is Niger.
Hey.
Hey!
I think we named almost every African country, right?
I mean,
there.
honestly, it's like
At least
than
every
Egypt and
French-speaking
South Africa.
African country.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
pretty
gonna say,
sure
I
it's
named all the
pronounced
francophones.
Niger. Are we going to give him that?
Huh?
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Niger.
Oh,
So are we going
my
to give him
bad.
that?
I think we're going to give
There's a
it to
coup
him.
going on, so we're gonna have a coup with the name also.
All right. After one round, let's see. Zane, Matt, and the audience are tied at 3. And Alden is in second with 1. Steven and Nick have 0. All right. This one's Prison Dementors. Matthew, you're the only one who would get that reference.
Azkaban.
No,
No,
The
it's
Office.
The Office. It's
But
The
if they
Office.
were flying around, they sucked the soul out of your body, and it hung you.
All right. This is all about prison statistics. So most of these, if it's a statistical answer, everybody gets 1 guess. You don't get to keep guessing afterwards. So make your guess count. And if
Is
you
it just closest?
yeah, it'll be closest.
Okay.
Here we go. But you still have to get there quick. Otherwise,
Wait,
somebody's
why?
gonna
No, it
because
doesn't
someone
really
will take your guess. You know?
Oh, so you can't. Yeah, right.
Here we go.
Can't double up.
The U.S. has the largest incarceration rate in the world. What is the number of people in prisons per 100,000 citizens? Matthew.
It's like 34.
Zane.
I was going to go 340.
Okay. Nick.
I'm gonna go 75.
Okay. Steven.
I'm going to go 325.
Okay. Alden.
280.
What did Zane and Steven say?
I said 340. He said 325.
Zane gets it. 698.
Wow.
It's an
Man, that's high.
It's a ridiculous amount. It's absurd.
Yeah,
All right.
that's seriously almost 3 times as high as my guess, and I thought my guess was really
That's
depressing.
exactly why Alex Jones named his first website Prison Planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is depressing.
Robert would have gotten it right had he.
Yeah, he was very close, man.
Had
yeah.
he not been on
I
such a
missed it.
delay. He Robert's a little bit more delayed. I'm pretty sure he uses some type of VPN to watch everything.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Smart
Yeah,
man.
I have to turn my VPN off to host this show because
Otherwise,
everything.
you'd be
Yeah, because I hosted
15
through
seconds
Portugal. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, the feds now know where your land is.
well, that's okay. They already knew. It's in the books. All right. Next question. What percentage of the world's incarcerated people are in U.S. prisons? Steven.
25.
Who's next?
Me.
Matthew.
9.
Nick.
18.
Alden.
8.
Zane.
20.
You know, I don't even know why I let everybody keep going because Steven nailed it.
Wow.
Nice.
Our population is only 4% of the world, but we have 25% of the incarcerated individuals.
I'm just
I
gonna
throw this
start
back
guessing.
out every family Thanksgiving after about beer 7. This comes out of my mouth.
What happens after beer 8 and 9 then?
Yeah.
That's when we just start playing video games.
Mario Kart.
That's when he starts talking about Stargate.
That's right.
All right. Question number
I gotta
3.
be at this Thanksgiving.
Of the people in prison, what percentage are nonviolent offenders? Zane.
85.
Alden.
Is this U.S. prisons?
U.S. prisons.
90.
Steven.
45.
Nick.
This is a hard one because I think a lot of times, they charge the easier stuff, but I'm going to go 33.
Wait to put a disclaimer before your answer. Good job. Matt.
You're going to go an even 50.
What did you guess, Steven?
45.
It's 46.
Wow.
46% of the people in prison didn't hurt anyone.
I started just
real-
doubling my answer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I went really high because I figured the higher the stat actually was, the more likely you would be to bring it up during trivia.
Fair
I
enough.
went high because I was gonna say something in this range, and then I was like, I've been so wrong that I just doubled it. Like,
Hannah almost got it too. Hannah,
She
Matt,
was-
and
yeah.
Steven were within 5%. That's
Wow.
great. All right. Next question. What percentage of prisons are privately owned? Zane.
I'll just go with half.
Alden.
66.
Matt.
30.
Steven.
I'm going to go with 70.
Nick.
40.
What did Zane and Alden say? Sorry, I forgot.
I said 66.
I said half.
Did anybody guess under half?
I said 40.
I guess 30.
Oh, Matt guessed 30. Matt gets it. It's 8.2%.
Oh,
Oh,
I
huh.
knew it wasn't very many, but I figured since you're doing
which,
it.
a fun fact with, various law enforcement people being in my family and near my family, I've been reassured that if you really had a choice, which you don't, even though libertarians were against the concept of privately owned prisons, if you really have a choice, you really want to go to one of the privately owned ones that's actually run for profit because they make profit on taking care of you.
Mm,
The government ones don't.
interesting.
Yeah. I've heard conflicting stuff on that. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but
Yeah, I
I
was
will
gonna-
say it's a lot of progressive types that get really angry.
All right, there's only one way to settle this. Both y'all go murder someone. We'll try and get y'all to separate prisons. And we'll
So what I was gonna say was the progressive types that get really angry about the concept of private prisons and say that they're just so profit seeking and that's why they're bad. The reason why they're bad is because they're being contracted to do what the government would otherwise do.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter that they're private because they're operating at the behest of the government.
Right.
Well, you bring
my
the
view on
progressives into it. They're mad at the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers are heavily invested in privately owned prisons, and they're tied into a legislative lobbyist body called the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. That they specialize in getting bills rammed through in certain states, particularly conservative states that crack down on nonviolent crimes, and have their prisons put there.
I don't know. Steven sounds pretty uninformed.
I mean, I've heard that we're very uninformed.
There we go.
No, I'm uninformed.
I
Liberta-
officially challenge a nuke ledge to come on the show and challenge me in trivia.
Oh,
Ooh,
don't.
all right,
don't
okay.
be the
Or
retards.
I would say just to debate Zane in literally anything and see who's less informed. Like
Taylor
That's-
Swift
that's
versus any other,
there we
pop
go.
star. Yeah.
All right, this next one is not a statistical answer, so first one to get it gets it. What prison practice / punishment is still allowed in the United States that is no longer used in most developed countries? Zane.
Capital punishment.
That is correct.
Mm.
All right. After 2 rounds, Zane has 7, Matt has 5, Steven has 4, audience has 3, and Nick has 0. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, it's one of those days.
It's
like that
says
last issue.
waterboarding.
I didn't know if the death penalty, if that counted as like part of the prison system or just like
Yeah,
the
I agree.
judicial
I was going to
system.
say,
Because
I
it's
was
a
gonna say,
sentence.
yeah.
So I didn't know if that one counted as prison. Yeah.
It is what it is. You win
I
some.
like
you lose some.
waterboarding
I mean,
as
we're-
an
It's
answer,
like
though.
you get the death penalty in court, not
You
in
get-
prison.
Yeah, you get maybe
Yeah,
killed
yeah.
there, right? Yeah.
Well,
But we're
there was a
uninformed,
state
so it
recently
doesn't
that had a firing squad, right? I remember reading something about that.
Utah,
Yeah, 'cause
Idaho,
they
I
couldn't
think,
get
was
the-
looking at it.
They couldn't get the chemicals, so they were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna shoot them."
I
Well, I think
die
it's
by
legal
fire.
in Utah, and I think Idaho was looking at adding it, and a couple other states were also.
To
It'd
add
be way
the death
more
penalty?
cool to die by firing squad.
To
than
add the
lethal
firing
injection.
squad, yeah.
Oh, the
I-
firing.
Yeah, I
squad.
mean the lethal injection thing. Like, why is a doctor there? Why is the needle sanitary?
why do
why
we
are you-
swab? Yeah. Why?
Why? Yeah, doing the SWAT. Like, what is that?
I'll
Don't
take
get an
the- I'll take
infection.
the
Yeah.
firing squad every time. Easily.
The
And so
fact
much
that the fact that a doctor is there, it feels like they're violating the Hippocratic oath. First do no harm. They're literally there to.
Which
kill
is
the
why
guy.
they're not allowed to. Which is why the doctor is not allowed to do anything.
It's a veterinarian.
Yeah, they
it's
can
not a
only
doctor.
they can only declare time of death.
Yeah, I mean, if I got the death penalty, I got to choose. It's like, have Dana White sell pay-per-view tickets, have Francis Ngannou punch me in the face, full force, no gloves.
And if you survive, that is your sentence, and then you have to live.
There we go.
But crippled,
And
yeah.
yes, just give me a helmet and some crayons afterward.
Yeah, and I'll just eat through a straw the rest of my life.
Right.
I assume y'all discussed the story about the guy who got a life sentence and then he technically died for like 5 seconds, and so he claimed he should be released because
On
life
grounds
sentence
of
he died.
having
Interesting.
achieved death in some sense
Yes.
by definition. That's interesting.
Oh, that we might get into that after trivia.
That's the
I
biggest
haven't tried that-
loophole
I haven't
of
tried
them
that
all.
with a botched execution. Also, like, oh yeah, I survived this, so
I heard
Yeah, I mean technically
If
that's
not, you
work.
should be free. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's cool.
I heard about that case. I'm pretty sure the judge said that the fact that the prisoner was there being able to mount that complaint was evidence that they were still alive and not dead.
That's pretty good.
Flip the script.
Still
There
an
we go.
interesting defense. I like it. All right, final round. It's all about soccer, y'all.
Let's go.
Footsies?
And the only reason that I did it with soccer is because Wrexham AFC, my team, begins their next season 2 days from now in the
Who do they play first?
Jake jumping on
MK
board because
Dom.
of the TV show. That's
Okay,
the,
Dom.
what's
That
that?
means Milton Keynes, Jake.
nothing.
All right, here we go. First question. Which team holds the record for the most Premier League titles? Matt.
Liverpool.
Wrong. Alden.
Manchester United.
It used to be Liverpool, then they
That
stopped.
was going to be my guess. Man, I know like 4 teams. Okay.
I figured everyone would know like the top
The
3 or
4
4
teams
Yeah.
probably are the most likely to have done it. That's,
Oh! It's just Premier League. It's not the history of. It's
just-
not like the English top division.
Look, it said Premier League titles.
It says Premier League.
Well,
Read,
okay,
read the question.
sure, yeah, okay. So
It
since
doesn't, say,
1992,
it doesn't say English top league.
Okay, fine. Sure.
All right,
And I
here we
went
go.
against Man United.
Here we go. What club has the oldest international stadium in the world, and when was it built? Matt.
What does it mean international? What does that mean?
Oldest.
Yeah.
Like, I know
stadium
Wrexham
in
has the
world.
oldest stadium in the world, and it was built in 1880.
Wrong.
I have to get the exact year.
You get partial. You got Wrexham correct.
I mean,
Alden.
come on.
Alden, go.
1890.
No. Steven, go.
Wrexham, 1812.
No. Nick.
1842.
Nope. Zane.
1881.
Okay. What did Matthew say?
But 1880. Wrexham.
Okay. Go over your answers again. Let me remember what everybody.
I said
1890.
1812.
1890. Nick said what?
42.
I'm doing math.
We'll be here a while.
Matthew gets it. 1864
Before
is
the
the
Civil
correct
War, during
answer.
the Civil War. It's crazy.
Isn't that
Coincidentally, that's that there was a sharp price increase in IPAs at Burton-on-Trent at the time, which was the birthplace of the IPA style. Which the IPA was a status symbol in the late 1800s. Jake,
IPAs were founded
Yes.
in
1080.
England, even though they're called in India Pale Ale. That
That's
sounds
very
like some communist stuff there.
yeah. Doesn't sound great.
Wrexham
Oh.
sounds too close to rectum.
I actually agree with that.
All right. Final question.
Don't make
Final
fun of the
question.
Limeys.
Here's how the score looks right now. Matt has 8, Zane has 7, Steven and Alden can get second place they're tied with 4. Nick has 0, audience has 3.
I'll take second.
Here we go. What was the original name of the sport of soccer? Zane.
Football.
Wrong. Matt.
Association football.
There we go.
Dang.
Association football.
It's ass football.
Ass foot. Yeah.
Yeah. Ass dot foot.
Well,
yeah.
so soccer came from an abbreviation for association.
Oh, you know
And
what?
so
That
Ah.
finally makes sense to me.
they started calling it soccer in England before they started calling it soccer here. And
Huh.
another
And then
fun
we turned
trivia
football
fact:
into a real sport, and they kept
No,
being
no.
pussy.
American football was invented first. It was invented
Really?
2 years before soccer was invented.
But why do they call American football football? Do we know?
Probably, 'cause- I don't know. They probably used to kick people a lot more.
Should be
No,
called
I think
hand
I
ag,
think
if
they
you really
did
get
used
down
to
to it.
kick the ball way more. It's a bit more like rugby, where they kick it a little more.
Yeah. That's
So
probably
the
right.
game used to be different.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
It's all an evolution, right? It's
Yeah.
not like if someone sat down one day and
It's
said,
evolution,
"Here's
baby.
a sport that I call. Here's two different sports that we call the same thing." I
Yeah.
mean, this isn't basketball where one guy just invented it one day. So
Yeah, when the fish got feet, they decided they liked kicking a ball back and forth.
All right, y'all. Well, let's.
If you go back, if you go back far enough, I think soccer originated by some people just kicking a dead guy's severed head around.
I thought it was like a severed goat head in ancient Babylon or something.
Goodness gracious.
If
what
it's
I heard.
Babylon, yeah, then it's.
All right,
Bible
y'all. Well,
too.
the final score, we have another audience or another guest victory tonight. Matt,
Hey.
11, Zane, 7, Steven and Alden with 4, audience with 3, and it's not Nick's night. The big goose egg for Nick.
I beat the audience though, so I feel
did-
good. You know.
You did beat the audience.
Next week we'll get my daughter on. We'll go for the trifecta for the green thing.
I don't know if I can beat your daughter.
Next week we're in Iceland, Matthew, so that ain't
I know.
happening.
I figured we'd broadcast from Iceland.
I will
Why
not
not?
be. What? Because it'd be happening at 2:30 in the morning. There.
I'm joking.
so what? It's still sunny.
Yeah.
It would still be sunny.
It's
You're
always
right.
sunny in Iceland.
Except when you go in November.
I was
Then
gonna
it's
say
always
it in
dark.
the summer.
It's
yeah.
never sunny in Iceland.
Well, yeah, I will not be hosting this for the next 2 weeks. Y'all are just now learning about that.
Were you the
Zach,
second week?
Zach, you're still in Iceland.
For that long?
Yeah.
Hey,
going
I'll
there.
host next week. It'll be my birthday eve.
Love
So,
it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Steven,
I'll drink
you're
more
the
than
host.
usual.
You're the host for next week. We'll find a host. Whoever wants to host the week after,
Yeah,
you're
I
welcome
can
to.
do the week after.
There we go. All
Sweet.
right, Zach, let's go to our next story. Fulton commissioners give green light to find how to fund almost $1.7 billion new jail facility in
Which-
Fulton County.
by the way, this study cost $1 million. This $1
Holy
million
mother-
study that they did could have gone to the victim of the bed bugs. I forget the guy's name. Please forgive me for that. But there's something to that story too. You know, this guy had some kind of pre-existing condition. He's one of those guys that's like allergic to the color red or something like that as well. But the photos that they posted of this guy's cell they look like some kind of Soviet jail cell. Like
Jeez.
Cold War era, like it's awful. But quite honestly, what does it take to get killed by bed bugs?
Killed by is insane. Yeah.
Right, like you
Is it
have, you
chronic?
have to
Like,
be
is it-
Okay, okay. Let's
allergic
pause.
to loud noises.
Hang on, Steven. No one except you knows what this bed bug story is. So can you tell people what is going on? Why this?
Yes,
is being
there
built?
there was a gentleman that was convicted of simple battery in June of 2022 in Fulton County. He was given I don't know what the term was, but he was given a free stay at Fulton County's finest free hotel. And while he was there during his tenure at this hotel, I guess room service was not doing their job adequately, and he succumbed to his conditions.
How long was he there?
He was there for, because it wasn't until February, March of this year. So we're talking over 6 to 9 months.
So were
Like-
the bed bugs like there the whole time? Like, was this like a chronic, like long-term thing, or was he like bit by bed bugs and was like allergic to bed bugs or some crazy thing?
It's got to be something like that, man. Like did
I
he
didn't know
have
you
like
could
that?
die
Did
of
he
it.
have that tick bite thing? Because that thing's going around now. These ticks, these Lone Star ticks that came from Texas. Rush Limbaugh was talking about these things back in 2017, and I was like, this guy's a nut. I turned him off, and now I know people that have that had this tick bite. They're allergic to red meat.
gal? Yeah, it's
What?
insane. And it to dive down the hot takes and conspiratorial stuff we like to get down every so often. Isn't it funny that this disease pops up right as they're pushing against red meat, saying how bad it is for the environment, and all of a sudden, oh look, these ticks are now spreading this disease.
Oh, and now we have 7 states that have introduced. Some of them have passed bills banning the genetic vaccine being put into the meat. So, like Wyoming, like these traditional farming states, like they've passed bills saying that you can't give the jab, the genetic engineering jab to your cows or your pigs, because this stuff is being transferred through the meat. Like after they're slaughtered, like this genetic mutation that this shot puts in them is being transferred through the food, and now you have multiple states getting ahead of that. But is it that? I don't know. But that's what's going on. Is there was a dude that went to jail. He beat somebody up. He was a criminal, and while he was in jail,
the word criminal.
Do what?
In the libertarian sense of the word criminal.
Absolutely, he was a violent criminal.
Not
he
just-
committed a hate crime. He beat somebody. So, while he was in there, the jail was so unkempt that he is no more. And so then the family starts to sue the jail. By the way, I'm pretty sure this is the same jail where the rapper T.I. just deuced out at the end of a music video. I don't know if y'all remember that, but because they found out, so the rapper T.I., he had multiple houses in Augusta, Georgia, that were. There was no furnishing in these houses. It was full of palletized U.S. currency.
Sweet.
What?
And they were like, "How do you explain that we find a couple of houses of pallets of money in your name, 200 miles from where you live?"
It's good for the
I thought
back.
this was
You
a
know?
free
Yeah.
country.
He's like, "Oh, I made all that rapping," and they're like, "Well, how much have you made rapping?" He's like, 40-something million. And they're like, "Cool, we recovered more than that from these houses. What are you doing?" And MTV
pretty
did a
sure
whole special
one
about it
pallet.
later.
One pallet's probably more than 47 million.
It's no, actually, it's not. It's like 10, I think.
Wow.
I don't know how much is in a pallet of money. That is like outside of my scope of money knowledge.
Yeah.
For sure.
But this dude had a couple of houses like full of pallets of money, and
This is like some Breaking Bad.
so they put him in jail. MTV did a whole special about it, like T.I.'s road to recovery, all this crap, and turns out he was trafficking guns and cocaine.
Now that makes more sense.
And by the way, if you listen to a lot of his raps,
That's not a crime in the libertarian sense of the word.
well, sure, but you can
That's
listen.
not
You can listen to his throwback remix in 2003, and he even says he's running cocaine with the Republicans and the Colombians. Okay, so he's pretty open about who he was dealing with. Mitch McConnell, cough, cough.
He didn't even bother with a metaphor,
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, he goes to prison, goes to jail, whatever, and they let him film a music video while he's in jail. Now, I got to look back through the time log here. I got to look back on the calendar. Was this the same year that Fulton County Sheriff Labatt was Jailer of the Year? I don't know, but there was a
Jailer of the
year
Year.
that T.I. He filmed a music video. Everybody's jamming out because he's playing his music, and at the end of the music video, he hangs the deuces and walks out of jail. So, like, this jail has a long documented history of not being worth a damn.
Clearly.
And so there's probably a lot of bed bugs. There's probably some other stuff going around, but who knows what other pre-existing conditions this dude had. But anyways, all that turmoil sparked this study of what are the conditions, how are we handling this? Meanwhile, you've got these stories spiraling of, they're sneaking cell phones in there, and people are selling drugs from jail. I don't know if you guys read Maxim magazine in the late 90s, early 2000s. But
do.
there's a rap group, GUN, Generations of United Nortinos, over there in California. Their gang multiplied in size and scope while their entire leadership was in federal max prison. These guys were like cutting letters off the bands of their underwear and flicking them out the window. They were recording platinum selling CDs from prison. It's a banger, by the way. GUN. You know,
It's a banger.
Norte Califas is a good jam. They recorded it from prison, and I learned this from Maxim magazine. So it's, you know, the prisons are not being run properly at all. By the way, the for-profit ones keep that shit on the low.
That's crazy.
You know, that doesn't happen in a for-profit prison, but in a government prison, you got government workers. You got the people that are supposed to be monitoring the inmates. They're having sex with them. They're giving them cell phones. They're letting more.
They're falling asleep while someone on Suicide Watch commits suicide. All
While the cameras fail.
Suicide Watch and the cameras fail.
You know, so quite honestly, you know, that number probably needs to be a little above. What was it, 8%? You know, it probably needs to be a little higher than that. So that's what sparked this whole thing. We have $1 million study of whether or not they need a new jail. I think we need less laws on the books.
Well, they were also looking at reopening the closed Atlanta jail, which they promised to make into like some community center or something.
Why would you want to go to a community center that used to be a jail?
I don't know. That was like the promise was like they were going to convert the former Atlanta
They have good
jail
showers,
to the community to a community center or something like that. And then Fulton Sheriff's like, yeah, actually, can we reopen that? We kind of need it.
Well, it does have a built-in rec center already, I guess. But,
Yeah,
It does. Alden makes a good point. It's got community showers too for a community center. It's great.
Dilly.
I did hear about the bedbug story, and you know, at least in the world of the World Economic Forum, we're eating the bugs, not the other way around.
Maybe it's Soviet Russia where bugs eat you.
And I mean, we're approaching a threshold where half of the people in our jails are there for non-violent offenses. And so the entire merit, let's say, for why we need this $1.7 billion new jail in Fulton County is so we can house a 40% ratio of people that have committed nonviolent crimes. And then there was a study done by the ACLU, excuse me, which, you know, as much as I despise these commies, a broken clock is right twice a day. So, you know, the ACLU did a study like a year and a half ago, I think, and it was half the people in the Fulton County jail weren't even charged with a crime yet.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, just the mere fact, like
the $1 million study even is just
the $1 million is ridiculous. The Dallas Cowboys stadium, one of the nicest stadiums to have ever been built, cost
didn't they have the biggest TV screen
billion
on the planet at the time?
Yes,
and it cost less than.
It probably still does.
It might still, yeah.
Cost what 60% of what this jail is going to cost.
Yeah,
the Superdome in New Orleans cost $500 million. They built it over 30 years ago. It's still there.
Yeah,
they're still hosting Super Bowls.
I feel like we should outsource some of this government study work to colleges or something and be like, yeah, if you want to pass, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do it for free.
Well, at least they're making a jail that's going to last the test of time. You know, it's going to last forever. You know, they're buying the good materials and really spending their money on it. Like, that's good.
We're going to need a place to put all the libertarians, you know, when we dissent.
It's funny you mention that because, you know, the DSM-5 is going to have cognitive dissonance, or not cognitive dissonance, but oppositional defiance disorder as a diagnosable condition.
Wait,
you know,
so say that again. What?
Oppositional defiance disorder. Like that's what this whole podcast is.
That's autism fest.
So we're guilty of a crime. I like it.
That's coming. I mean, that's the whole. Crime. So you know, the red flag laws, although they seem somewhat based on merit to some people, not me, but you know, some people think that hey, well, if we got some guy that's diagnosed, schizo, and he's on meds, and then he's off his meds, he shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah, well, some people thought
take the gun first. We'll worry about due process later.
That's right. That's right, Trump.
That's sort of the people. People were eating Tide Pods for a while, and I mean, they.
Yeah.
That's not the DSM. So.
But that's one of those things, So, one of Obama's main initiatives was, mapping the human brain, which sounded great for science, but you have a U.S. president using this for political clout, then it becomes scary. And so now, the mantra, and unless you've been asleep for the last decade plus, the mantra is red flag stuff, behavioral health, psychological health. Who's getting most of the government money right now? This COVID money that's trickling down to states and local municipalities. Where's this stuff going? It's going to DFAC centers and behavioral health centers. They're coming for your kids. They're coming for you.
I saw that that in Pittsburgh up here, the COVID money they were allocating to buying new police cars.
God, of course they were.
Well, hey, Peachtree City, Georgia's getting a Bearcat.
Well,
they were COVID-proof cars.
Peachtree City?
Peachtree City's getting a Bearcat, y'all.
Peachtree City needs a Bearcat.
Yeah.
Explain to people what a Bearcat is.
Okay, so a Bearcat is one of those mine-resistant rubber tire SWAT vehicles.
For those who don't know what Peachtree City is, most people drive around in golf carts everywhere. There are golf cart paths around that whole stinking city because there's nothing happens there. It's the most. If you think of like what the Stepford Wives place would be, it would be in Peachtree City, freaking Georgia. Like nothing happens there.
All those people driving around in golf carts, they're extremely vulnerable to mines.
They are.
The only time I actually saw what was it? When I was living in Texas before I moved to Georgia, I was walking down the street because I had my car getting inspected. And I lived, I was in Midland, Texas. I lived right on like the little loop that went around the city. And walking down the street, one of those Bearcats comes flying down the highway, lights on, while I'm walking down. I'm like, something's going on. And I go get to my car, start driving, the 5 minutes back to my place because I lived about 2 minutes from there, just getting it inspected. Get in my car, driving. My sister calls. She's like, "Hey, do you know there's like some mass shooting going on down there right now?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Yeah, apparently some guys driving around just shooting." I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm just walking down the street."
Perfect.
I was hoping that story ended in you walking around just shooting things, but
no.
Yeah,
your girlfriend
wore off.
Nice. We got anything else about prisons in Georgia? So I'm confused. What was the $300 million prison? Was that the old one? The one that had the bed bugs in it?
No, that was one that just popped up that I was reading about, and that one seems to have vanished, quite honestly. So it's been kind of rolled in to this $1.7 billion monstrosity. Because there's another story from late 2022 where the city of Atlanta was leasing cells to Fulton County. I don't know how that works, and whether or not Kasim Reed got any of that, but apparently they were selling their hotel rooms to the county. But by the way, this $1.7 billion. So although it's an absolute tragedy, this criminal had to die in jail due to the terrible conditions of the jail. Your property, if you live in Fulton County, your property taxes, your sales taxes are about to increase because the county killed this man.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And of course to say, well, maybe he shouldn't commit a crime. Well, really, like the punishment for punching somebody in the face is
that's
death.
Yeah. If you get a death sentence, then that's death. But like, you shouldn't just randomly die in prison. Because what if somebody else in the cot, that had bed bugs next door that was just serving a 30-day?
Well, and that's the weird part. Why is he the only one?
I don't know.
Why is no one else like maimed or otherwise disfigured or otherwise permanently disabled? This is an isolated incident. Like,
that's why
was he being picked on? Were they like shoveling these things on him at night while he was asleep? Like, how is this an isolated incident? That's the other thing I can't wrap my mind around. But regardless, because of the county's ineptitude, they need more of your money to do it to more people.
Perfect.
Let's see.
Think about that for a minute.
Trying to
And
find
that's
it.
the price we pay.
So Fulton County residents, when you have that millage rate hearing, maybe you want to show up to this one.
Do you guys know about the, I think they're called like CMUs, a certain kind of prison? There's only like 2 of them in the country. And they were made. What?
Communication management units.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
And is it Florence is also one?
There's one in like Indiana or something.
Yeah, Terre Haute, and I think maybe Florence has one also.
Yeah, and that's like I think there's just those 2, and they were like in the Bush administration, basically so basically Dick Cheney pushed to have them made after 9/11.
All right, pause real quick, Alden.
Oh, sure, yeah, no worries.
So signs and symptoms: bed bugs. Rarely, asthma occurs as a systemic type of an allergic reaction caused by bed bug bites, and may be accompanied by more extensive urticaria and anaphylaxis, severe and sometimes fatal reaction to an allergen, resulting in breathing difficulties, low blood pressure, and eventually shock if untreated. So, I guess technically speaking, yeah, it's possible that he just had a horrible reaction to it, went into anaphylaxis, and died.
So it's very possibly not an isolated incident in terms of having bed bugs there, but it was just left untreated.
Everyone's getting ravaged by these things. He's just the one guy that was unlucky enough to be allergic to the some bitches.
Right.
If one person in those type of confines has it, everyone's got them. Like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like lice or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That makes more sense, but that's still bad.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. I mean, it's terrible.
So, and it's just wild that they would need that much money for a prison, because now you have, earlier this year, you have, what was it, Tattnall County down there near Fort Stewart, the Savannah area, the southeast side of the state. You got a guy that was murdered in the prison. And then you have people that were plotting and executing murders from within that prison.
By whom?
And they were being aided by one of the jailers. So please, let's give these folks more money, and let's give them more residents to oversee. What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong?
I mean, this is the modern day Roman Colosseum. Let's not get that twisted.
I don't know who's twisting it. That sounds.
You got a retired vet with PTSD. Some of those guys, some of them like to eat pills and play video games. God bless you. Thank you for that. But others get jobs being a prison warden. And, when you flex on them, they shut the door behind themselves and say, take a swing.
Jeez. All right. Well, let's transition from prisons to how you get to prison. Zach, let's go full screen with this. This is 3.5 minutes.
Whatever is in your hand, put it on the roof. That's fine. Open up the car from the outside. Yes.
So, to put it into context, this officer in Arkansas pulled over this family in a van.
Move your car back, bro.
Ran the license plate number, and the license plate, he accidentally ran it as an Arizona plate rather than an Arkansas plate, so it wasn't in Arkansas. So he.
Why is his finger on the trigger?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Immediately thought it was stolen.
Why is his finger on the trigger?
This is
Put
a
this
mom
man
and
behind
dad.
a desk and take that gun from him tomorrow.
Yes, this is a mom, dad, and children.
This is assault with a deadly weapon, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Because he typed in what AR instead of AK or A.
He typed
what is
in AZ instead of AR.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what the.
Yeah, Arkansas.
But he should know if he's typing.
He's typed in
AZ is Arizona,
AZ instead
right?
of AR.
Well,
yeah.
remember you can score too high on a test to become a cop.
What?
ASVAB.
Yeah.
Too
You
high?
can score too high. Like
Exactly.
you're too high.
Well, for an entry level position, yeah.
We
Zach,
can't
let's
let you.
Go forward. I want to see if they ever show the family. I don't remember if they do. Keep going.
This came off of Spikes. He might not have because of, he's a decent person.
Yeah, there we go.
I thought the one thing that they were supposed to do well is do weapons training to be a cop, and he wasn't even using.
No, they're terrible with that too. Like they do it, and they do a lot of it, but they're still absolutely terrible with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
yes and no. You know, by and large, yes. You know, but it's
Zach, you can just minimize this, but go. I want to see Spike's tweet about it. So just
a lot of those guys take that stuff seriously. There is a very large portion of police officers that take that very seriously and do it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
There is a raucous and problematic minority that are the type of guys that would take the cartridge out of the Nintendo when you started beating them at Mike Tyson. You know.
Well, just so everybody knows, Spike Cohen, he does this. He retweets things and then puts it in the phrasing of "without government," and then answers the question or asks a question: who would threaten to murder you and your family because they're too dumb to operate their own system? all the cop had to do was input the proper initials of the state, abbreviation of the state, and he failed to do that. Assumed it was stolen, pulled a gun on a man and his family.
Yeah, there's a series of mistakes here.
With his finger on the trigger.
Yeah, it's important to remember that the average intelligence of police is lower than the average population. So the fact that this happens is not surprising. But also, when your typical conservative just goes, "Oh, well, you should obey the police when they tell you to do something," as a matter of prudence, I think that that's probably a good way to avoid getting shot. But as a practical matter, a lot of times in these videos when the police are shouting orders at you, the orders are confusing.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a guy pointing a gun at you, shouting orders at you that are confusing. It's probably hard for you to follow them. So you should not be surprised when people have difficulty following confusing orders that are being shouted at them while a gun's in their face.
Yeah, what was his name out in there in Arizona? Daniel Shaver. That was it. Yeah. Whenever. If you've ever seen that video, it's the most.
Oh, he didn't do the hokey pokey right. You know, it was get on your knees, stand up. It was a game of Simon Says.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different orders that makes no sense, and he's clearly
and he wasn't
surrendering.
fully sober, so
and he made one wrong move, and they blew him away for it. And then that cop, and then that cop who shot him is claims some sort of medical disability, and now he's sitting there doing nothing for the rest of his career, getting paid taxpayer money. Scot-free.
Same thing with the dude that choked out Eric Garner. The dude was selling Lucy's on the sidewalk in New York City.
Yeah,
single cigarettes.
Yeah, such a dangerous person. There.
He was selling single cigarettes on the sidewalk in New York City. Dude put him in a chokehold because he grew up playing UFC games and watching Bloodsport. And this is my chance. I got to chokehold this guy. Oh, I've been practicing this one. And he just leaned into it and choked the dude to death.
Yep.
Freaking butthead, man. So there's those guys. That's why that show Cops had to be taken off the TV because there was folks that were watching like the most problematic, stressful areas of our country going, well, I could do that. I could beat up a junkie,
So
it's on Fox Nation now, Cops.
Yeah, wow. I can tackle a dude over a fence any day of the week, man. I'd love to do that. Absolutely. Sign me up.
So they're basically using it as a recruiting tool.
That's what I was just going to say.
Hell yes, it was. Yeah. And there was a bunch of those people coming in, and they're like, screw protocol. Did you see that tackle?
Apparently, that's where the term wife beater comes from, because every time they would go arrest a wife beater, he was wearing one of those tank tops.
Yeah, because before that, it was an A shirt or a Paul Newman shirt.
Well, the person making the arrest had a 40% chance of beating their wife also.
That's fair too.
Yeah.
Goodness. I mean, like this poor family. Can you imagine being told to get out of your car at the point of a gun, just driving through a state with your kids?
That's awful, man.
Horrifying. Especially
what state
when
were they in?
They were in Arkansas.
Arkansas, yeah.
Arkansas.
But he ran it as Arizona?
Yeah.
But it was an Arkansas plate?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Arkansas plate in your own state, you would think that you've done this before,
Yeah. Because it's
an Arizona plate and he ran it.
And I'm looking at my keyboard.
No,
and
there's an
R and the Z are not that close to each other.
But it's
is that a Dorito?
It's likely a drop-down menu. I would imagine that it's a drop-down menu.
Oh, and it
right
was
next
just
to each other.
Right next
I
to
got
each
you.
other.
Yeah.
But First of all, if your first suspicion is it was stolen, how about you take a look in the car and see that there's a husband, a wife, and children in the back, and then maybe don't pull out your gun and go up and talk.
That's one idiot. Of the
or if you pull out your gun, maybe not have your finger on the trigger.
Yeah,
that's a beginner.
That's another one.
Like that's time ever shooting mistake.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, I didn't make it to Osprey Shooting Solutions last weekend, but you know, I'm pretty sure that's step one. You know, you only have your finger on the trigger if you're about to fire.
Yeah, agreed.
Hey, Hannah, it wasn't Texas. There is a Frisco in Arkansas as well. So why don't you go do your research?
Oh, it's Texarkana. Is it in the overlap?
I can see if I can find it.
Where we got our dog.
There you go. Well, and then you got Tennessee. There's some overlap areas in the states, and I mean, some of those are being fought in Supreme Court right now. You know, Georgia's fighting against Tennessee and Alabama for where our border is.
Interesting. Hannah says it was in Texas. Okay, so I guess it was near the border. Or no, she said it was in Frisco. So that's not even close to the border.
I don't even know where Frisco is.
Frisco's just north of Dallas.
Yeah. I thought it was in the Bay Area.
I live in Texas. I drove through Dallas and kept going.
So it's a Little Rock family with Arkansas plates in Texas, and he ran it as Arizona.
Perfect.
Even so, if you're in the Dallas area, I mean, it's not that far from Arkansas.
So is this a Texas trooper?
It would have to be, I would think, a Texas trooper or a Texas policeman.
I'm shocked that Chuck Norris didn't just appear out of nowhere to stop this.
You know, Chuck Norris went to my church when I was growing up.
Really?
He would sit.
Or did the church go to Chuck Norris?
In front of me.
The priest in a chokehold or something.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. What do we got up next, Zach? Okay, let's take it to the Biden administration. So here is a timeline. March 16th, oversight reveals Biden family payments. March 17th, Hunter admits laptop is his. On March 18th, Trump says Manhattan DA will indict him. And then on April 4th, Manhattan DA indicts him. Then FBI document alleges Biden/Hunter Biden each bribed $5 million. 1 day later, classified doc indictment of Trump. July 26th, Hunter's sweetheart plea deal collapses. 1 day later, additional classified document charges against Trump. July 31st, Devin Archer testifies. 1 day later, Trump January 6th indictment. Are you seeing a pattern? Is there a pattern here? Can anybody catch it?
Yeah, because meanwhile, money printer goes burr. The Epstein client list is not released, even though Epstein clients are being charged all over the world.
I love the first comment.
Or getting divorces, a la Trudeau recently. So yes, I am seeing a pattern that this is a constant smokescreen, a little tug of war, all this kind of stuff. You know, look, is Trump a double agent? You know, was he sent to eradicate the conservatives? Because I mean, he was a Democrat up until the late until he ran for president. Actually,
we talked about this where he said that he would run as a Republican because he would think that he would do better, and that we've all heard this somewhere, and that we couldn't find like where it was from now at this point. But
no, they took it offline because he literally said Republicans are idiots, so I'm going to run as a Republican if I ever run as president.
There you
basically
go.
said,
all he had to
believe
say was,
anything I say.
all he had to do is say we're going to make America great, and they said, yeah, let's make America great, and fell right for it. I do love the fact that the first comment on this is the great Claire Foster.
Hunter isn't running for president, and giving your son business advice isn't a crime, y'all.
I love that account. That account was actually named in the Twitter files because with the government trying to say, hey, this is a bad account when it's like a complete troll account.
There you go.
Like, that one was named by name. That one was put out there.
DeSantis is about to go toe to toe with Gavin Newsom. They're about to have a debate. That's being sized up like a UFC fight. And meanwhile, you got Vivek Ramaswamy, who's just waiting in the wings to clean up. So if they manage to take out Trump, DeSantis is going to undo himself.
DeSantis is tanking. He's doing so poorly.
Again,
he
good governor.
Was most popular.
Crappy federal candidate.
Yes. The issue is when he was being a great governor, it's because he was saying "F you" to all the right people. He goes and he starts running for president, and now he's playing the more moderate, centrist, like respectable candidate that Trump's "F you" to the system, as much as Trump
right.
said,
and no one wants that anymore.
But right, no, the way he would have won is coming out and going harder and saying, no, I represent you better than that, and I hate the people who hate you even more than Trump does, and I'm actually going to do something about it.
Well, and even if he didn't mean it, as a Navy SEAL, he should be skilled enough to portray that message.
Navy JAG.
Okay, so he went to SEAL. Okay.
Yeah, no, he was torturing people in Guantanamo.
Gotcha.
That's what I thought it was.
Let me answer Robert's question real quick. Robert, no, I didn't go to Prestonwood. We went to Watermark Community Church. And yeah, Chuck Norris came. He didn't come forever, but he came for a while. So anyway, Alden, go.
Oh, that I was just gonna say, as far as that's more closer to what I heard his backstory was, like as far as the Navy position was more like at like Guantanamo or something, and not like a SEAL, but
right.
But I haven't looked into this a lot, but that's just more familiar
well, at least
to me.
He was at least JAG in the post 9/11 years, Guantanamo Bay torture Bush years.
Gotcha. Okay,
and
so
it's not like on record that like he was involved in the enhanced interrogations, but like it lines up kind of with where he was and what his position was.
I've heard him like more just make some like off-color comments about like what was going on, and just he seems kind of like he just doesn't give a shit, and he was a little too comfortable with the idea of torture going on like next to him, kind of thing. That's like again.
Well, and then meanwhile, you got Ramaswamy being labeled as a young global leader by the WEF, and he actually had a lawsuit against them recently, saying, don't fucking call me that.
That's right. He did do that. Yeah.
Don't call me that.
He's a super interesting dude. Like his whole backstory of how he decided to get into politics is interesting because he started out getting into it because of the ESG scores with companies and like people during Black Lives Matter and all that. He was basically, his people came to him and said, you should put a black square as your profile picture right now. And he was like, fine, that's fine. And then they came to him and they're like, you should, write a letter like about the riots and everything and about everything that's been happening. And he wrote a letter against the riots and they were like, no, you need to be supporting us. And he was like, screw that. And so then he started getting into the ESG and figuring that this is hurting his company and hurting a bunch of other companies. And that's when he got into politics. So,
yeah, so I try to take some nuance with it, right? Like I believe where he is with the ESG and the woke stuff. I don't trust him partially because he's, from Ohio. And
well, hey, at least so one thing Ohio has for it, the word itself looks like a tractor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
But then what I question a lot, like, I mean, this was a guy that, at this time we're looking at the pharmaceutical companies with suspicion, and this was a pharmaceutical company guy. Like he started and ran pharmaceutical companies, and as late as 2022 was tweeting to wear your mask. Right, like this wasn't 2020 tweeting wear your mask. This was 2022 tweeting. Oh, remember to wear your mask and blah blah blah. It was like,
is it Xing?
I have those
what's the
receipts.
new verb for it? Is it Xing now?
I think it's still called Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's what I was starting to ask before.
It's called reposts and post now instead of tweet and retweet. So I think it's X and Rex maybe. But
I hate it.
So
no, dumb.
Yeah. So
look, I don't like Vivek on everything. Like Vivek's not
I have
on
suspicions of him, especially that whole Ohio thing I had.
Well, and then with the WEF, regardless of the lawsuit, that's kind of a kiss of death. So anyways, what I'm getting at, the Republican Party is absolute trash. Okay. They have nobody. Like, have you seen RFK with his shirt off? Good God. Like, come on, guys. Like,
the dude's in shape for 70.
Right.
Yeah.
Who do you want giving you health advice? RFK or Bill Gates?
Yeah.
Or Donald Trump. I mean,
pecs and six pack or man boobs and dad gut.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I don't know that maybe president probably not like the right job for RFK. I love that he at least should have an uncensored platform where he is, because the Democrat Party is they're all criminal communists from what I can tell. So you have absolute trash, spineless, immoral nobodies, and then you have criminal communists, and that's how they get along in the Capitol.
I like the platform that RFK has right now, even if he, maybe even like, hopefully if he, if doesn't become the president, you know what I mean? That the good that can come of this is still that it's got people kind of more of a spotlight on what he's saying about certain things that I agree with, even if like what you're saying as an entire candidate person, as a potential, he might not be the right fit for the job. But there's interesting things being talked about now because of what he's bringing to light. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's definitely on testosterone replacement for sure.
What I find interesting though is at least Ramaswamy and RFK are kind of showing up to libertarian events and kind of marketing that way, and so that's either like they realize this is a voting block to go after, or they actually somewhat align in some certain ways. It's kind of,
I mean, they do, like they definitely have some libertarian leanings, but and like writing them off completely. I like the approach that Nick takes, like be a little more subtle with the candidates, and like don't hate them just because they have this one terrible view, like
or they're from Ohio,
or because they're from Ohio. Like Vivek wants to increase the drug war. Like, how stupid do you have to be to do that? Like, that's insane. However, many of the things he says are fantastic, and he's like, I love that he came out and defended Trump. Like, I don't care for Trump. Okay.
Well, I was just catching up on I was falling behind. I fell behind on my Tom Woods episodes, and so I was catching up the past couple days, and just listened to the latest episode he did with Ramaswamy, and he was going through I used to be a libertarian, and then I realized there's other things like culture and virtue, the pursuit of virtue, and blah blah blah, that things matter, and that's why I'm more conservative now. And right, but I literally listened to this one driving home today, right? So it's like your idea is pursuing virtue through force. Is that what the difference here is? Because even Tom was like, well, like, libertarianism is just a political philosophy that says you don't initiate force. Like, it has nothing else to say with anything else here.
Yeah.
But like,
I used to be a libertarian, but then I looked at the Crusades and I thought that was dope. So
you do.
I listened to a few years ago, RFK was on a podcast, like a deeply like conspiratorial type podcast, but he was talking about the COVID at the time, and it was one of the only places that would have him on to hear what he had to say on Fauci and all that in his book and everything. So it's kind of cool to have a presidential candidate that's been on like conspiracy podcasts before. I don't know. I find that interesting. But
it's also cool to say the federal government killed my dad and my uncle.
Yeah, there you go.
Very true.
Yeah.
What are the odds we could get one of these candidates on this show?
0.
I say we try it.
Oh, come on. It's not 0. Give me a break.
Well, there's a chance like we could probably get one of them on.
We've had a presidential candidate on here, so it's not 0. I'm going to say it's not 0.
Hey, Zach, reach out to like Ramaswamy's people. And
I could go to, I forget who it is in the King family, lives in Peachtree City. Be like, hey, you remember that Brooks kid that went trick-or-treating there in 2001 when he was way too old and he went from Peachtree City just because you were giving king-size Snicker bars? Would you like to do my podcast? He cussed me out and threw something at me, but among the things he threw at me was a king-size Snicker bar, which is what I came for.
Perfect. I love it.
The really awesome thing about RFK though is I absolutely never would have guessed that you could run a campaign in the Democratic Party that's getting the amount of support that it is on the platform that he is running on. I just thought that like everybody in that party was just completely lost and hopeless. But if they're at least listening to RFK, they're not as far into the deep end of just absolute garbage ideology as I would have expected.
So when they do these polls, do they, like, if they're doing a poll between RFK and Biden, are they differentiating between Democrats and Republicans, or are they just asking everybody like, would you vote for Joe Biden or RFK first? Like, is it everybody? Because if it's the entire group, then who knows? It could be a lot of Republicans or Libertarians or independents that are.
Well, and is there even a slot for other? You know, because
Matthew, you're muted.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Throughout my entire adult life, I've been called exactly twice for a political poll, and none of them were for presidential stuff. But one of them was for which newscast I listened to in Metro Atlanta, and they were like, "So out of the reporters you listen to, do you listen to so and so, so and so, so and so, and so and so?" I was like, none of those are Glenn Burns or Jovita Moore, so hell no. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, I don't even know these people you just listed off. And they're like, so I'll just put it down as such and such. I'm like, no. And then after 2 or 3 of those, the call was over because there was no slot for other. It was, they had 2 clear channels of anchors they were polling for.
The correct
and
answer.
Anything outside of that, they weren't even, was not even in the poll.
So yeah, I have some pretty funny stories of actually responding to pollers that call me. Like, one pollster once asked me who my favorite Democratic president was, and I said Grover
Taylor Swift.
Cleveland. And then another time, one of the questions was like, would you describe yourself as very conservative, somewhat conservative, moderate, somewhat liberal, or very liberal? And I said very libertarian.
Yeah, that's
and
hilarious.
They said, is that somewhat conservative or moderate? I'm like, no.
No.
Is that what I said? No.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's a leading and rigged question, sir. Thank you.
Cody says he always just acts like he's putting them on hold. It's a good way to do it.
Going back to your original question, Jake, I think that most of the primary polls are only looking at Democrats.
Okay, that's good to know.
If it's primary, then I would think it should be by definition just Democrats.
I know in this last election cycle, I got hit up by a poll company, and the poll was like the most blatant. I posted the link for everyone to see, and like,
I remember that.
Groups. It was the most slanted thing I'd ever seen. Like, it was like,
I went into that and I gave him feedback.
Do you prefer killing puppies or not killing puppies? It was like that kind of slanted. Like, do you think people should have free health care or that they should just die?
They should just die.
I think they should just die. Yeah. No, that's how it should be.
There we go. I think Paul Ryan should shove them off a cliff, is what I think.
And I read it and I'm like, I'm not even gonna like justify this because it's just such a It's one of those polls they put out to whatever they call it, the special kind of poll that they do that's designed to like
increase their. It's supposed to be fake. Like it's
a fluffing poll.
Because there was one you put out. I remember that because it was a Democrat AI bot, and it was one of those things. It was like, so who are you voting for? What are your concerns? And I was like, well, I'm concerned that Laura Silsby worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign, and she's been arrested for child trafficking in Haiti multiple times. Now she runs the Amber Alert system.
No.
And they were like, thank you for your feedback. Have you considered Hillary Clinton for president? I was like, are you even reading this message? Like,
I've never gotten a poll. I've never had somebody ask me a bunch of questions. I've mainly had somebody say like, would you consider voting for Hillary Clinton, or would you consider voting for whoever? And then I'll, explain why there's not a chance in hell. And then they continually just ignore the answer and keep asking dumb questions and continue down the line of questioning they were already.
That's why instead of like trying to have a discussion, you just troll them back. Like I had a Bernie Sanders called text banker text me at one point, and I just started like back and forth with this guy, just like saying ridiculous shit to see what I can get him to say back.
I've legit been in contact with Bernie Sanders campaign workers, and I'm like, if I give you honest feedback, like I'll give you man on the street I'll give you like 4 hours of footage of man on the street stuff around Fayette and Coweta counties. If I give that to you, can I stay in one of his beach houses as an Airbnb? And they were like, let me get back to you.
Let me get back.
They tried to do it.
I love responding to text bankers like that. Like during the runoff last year between Herschel Walker and Warnock, I got a text from somebody. And first I was like, are you a human or a bot? Because I didn't want to waste my good material on a bot. But then, so that they texted back to me and said that they were a human and would I consider voting for Warnock. And then I said, how does it make you feel that 80,000 libertarians are making you waste your Thanksgiving continuing to work on this campaign? I didn't get a response to that.
Yeah, I mean, but now you have ChatGPT, so how do you know if you're talking to a...
You can tell. ChatGPT is not that smart. Like, it's just not.
We're talking about a very constrained...
Did he just fade out to anybody else?
Yeah.
That's me. Yeah.
Nick?
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Oh, he's gone. He gone.
Audio's gone.
But it really did fade out. It was like
all I hear is a whisper of Hodor, 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 Hodor.
No, I'm sitting here just moving my mouth.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
You're an idiot. Okay. Zach, let's go to the next story. Trudeau's divorce leaves nation in shock that he was married to a woman. This is a Babylon Bee article, obviously. Let's quickly go to the next slide there, Zach, because it's an interesting theory. Rumors are circulating that Justin Trudeau and Emmanuel Macron had an affair together, and then if you see these photos, it is, I mean, it has to be like that third one, that bottom right one. What is going on there?
Is Canada
they thought they were at the Marlon Brando lookalike contest.
Yeah, Macron, the former Rothschild banker.
Justin Trudeau, the son of Castro.
Yeah. So
Castro and Rothschild here.
You got Macron, who was, admittedly sexually abused as a child.
Jeez, and he's their freaking president.
Right. And not that alone disqualifies you, but statistically, they are more likely to be devious in their adulthood.
Well, Hannah, like, if he's cheating with his foreign affairs, if they did it abroad, then it's legit because it was a foreign affair.
International waters. It's different rules.
The name.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at with that is, so Bill Gates, he got a divorce, which was like surprisingly quiet. And then 2 months later, 3 months later, it came out that he was on the Epstein flight log. And they were like, "Hey, bro, what you been doing at Epstein Island?"
Those rumors were already circulating.
The rumors were circulating, but the evidence wasn't released yet.
Right.
And the evidence comes out, and then Melinda, whatever her maiden name is like, "Holla, Bill, I'm not a part of this."
Why it was quiet when he pays hundreds of millions of dollars to various media companies, like
So you look at that kind of pattern, and then you got Bezos. He goes over to Saudi Arabia. He's philandering over there with their in their harem, whatever harem he's afforded, and then his cell phone gets stolen. Then he gets a divorce. Then it comes out that he was philandering in the harem in Saudi Arabia. So it's like these major figures, they get these divorces ahead of some kind of breaking announcement that they're tied to some kind of something, so that way the spouse can at least stay clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're still really together.
And a lot of
just for all legal purposes, the assets are transferred into the innocent's name, and then because they were married at the time, they can't condemn each other in court.
A lot of times the spouses actually have some weird family lineage too, like they're related to like Rothschilds or whatever, and like it gets bizarre.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think, is it Bill Gates now, I guess ex-wife or whatever, but was it a Rothschild or was it another like old blood like banking family thing or whatever? But like there's a lot of those where it would just be an amazing coincidence if all these people just happen to like meet and fall in love with these people like that are part of these like old money families or whatever. I don't know.
Something has to happen at Bohemian Grove,
And
right?
Cody, that's not what I'm implying, wholesale. I'm just saying because you were abused doesn't disqualify you as being a politician or a leader of any form. I'm just saying that, statistically, the ones that are deviants in positions of power were abused as children. Let me clarify that. While I'm clarifying things too, last week I was saying something about Tyler Perry. I didn't have anything on him directly. It was people around him. So, once you're a billionaire, 100 millionaire, whatever, there's guaranteed to be a whole rainbow of all kinds of people around you.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela really enjoyed Jay-Z's music. Does that make Jay-Z a racist? Well, maybe, but not because Nelson Mandela enjoyed his music. You know what I'm saying? So it's, the stuff I was saying about Tyler Perry last week was not about him directly. It was about his handlers or people, running various things around his operation.
And I just want to remind everyone, we're usually drinking pretty heavily on this show. So,
right.
And also, I already reported Stephen to the racist police. So it doesn't matter.
He is a Fed.
I love that the show is big enough now that we have to issue corrections. That's
that was on my shoulders after last week too, because it was just
he's just trying to be an honest actor here.
One, I couldn't resist the Nelson Mandela Jay-Z parallel, because 7% nation. Come on, guys.
Does anyone here have a memory of Mandela dying in prison?
No, I don't know who has that memory. Like, that's ridiculous.
But I know I saw the Berenstein Bears.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, so you can screw off. And Shaq was a damn genie in a movie. Okay, so get out of here with any of that.
I don't know either of those movies, so I can't tell you.
Sinbad is the one in question. Shaq was apparently in Shazam or whatever, but Sinbad is the one that was in question. Like,
definitely the one.
Yeah,
I've never seen either of those movies, nor did I know it existed until I first heard about this.
Well, so Robert Maxwell was also what's the dude with special intelligence? Mossad.
He was Mossad, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he fell off his yacht in the middle of the ocean one night.
As one does on their yacht. All right, let's go to the final serious thing. It's not that serious. I just thought it was an awesome quote. This is AOC saying it's more important to be morally right than factually correct. And the opposite of that is Thomas Sowell. It is usually futile to try to talk facts and analysis to people who are enjoying a sense of moral superiority in their ignorance.
Wow, those are a great foil of quote against each other. That's awesome.
Well, AOC, that's exactly what I would expect out of a bartender in a college town.
Mm-hmm. I was a bartender. No.
Well, there you go. And you made more money being morally right than factually correct, right? I mean, that's...
Actually, I heard she wasn't even a bartender. She was a waitress. The whole bartender story was spun as because bartending seems more prestigious than just waitressing.
Really?
Well, this has always been annoying because both waitressing and bartending are a more moral profession than being a politician. So I actually respect her way more in her previous
no argument there.
I'll drink to that.
I'm sure she was a delightful bartender. I bet she was great. I bet she got tips out the wazoo.
She was everyone's favorite big booty bartender, right?
There we go.
Can we get Alex Stein on the show?
I would love to have Alex Stein on the show. He's based out of Dallas, isn't he? Yeah. We should get him on the show. Is he a native Texan? Did he grow up in Texas?
He went to Highland Park.
Oh my God, we could definitely get that guy on the show. We probably know a lot of the same people.
He's all hat, no cattle.
All right, what is this a reference to?
Trying to use a Texas term.
Somebody help me.
That's
I don't know.
Cody, we don't know.
No. It was that's The Hangover.
Oh right, that's such a good one. Yeah, he was a bartender. Thank you. Let's see. The pursuit of truth is morally correct. You're darn right, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
You're darn right.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, y'all. I have 7 minutes till I have to leave. Do we have anything else we need to discuss tonight, or can we go on to the hilarity of the last 4 things that I have?
Coincidentally, I have 7 minutes until I have to pee. So.
Perfect. All right.
Crazy. There's been some fun movement in crypto world lately.
Like what?
Well, what the SEC? Well, there was a ruling by a judge that
against Ripple.
Against Ripple, and then against Do Kwon, the Terra Luna guy, about saying that's a security. So that's opening up more security to the shitcoinery. The SEC
I've been getting a lot of XRP spam as a result.
Well,
of
so
it.
the big deal was they were trying in their lawsuit, they were trying to differentiate between wholesale and retail. And they were trying to say, like, the wholesale to institutions was given a discount so they could then push it to retail as the method of dispersal of their shitcoin.
Yeah, but this isn't like pants, so like this not how this should work.
Right. Well, they were trying to say that one made, when it was sold to retail, it was a commodity, and when it was sold to
like classified differently,
to VCs, it was a security. Wow. And that just makes no sense. It's either a security or it's a commodity, right? So,
wow.
There was that. There was, so in all this, there was also the SEC told Coinbase to delist everything that's not Bitcoin.
Interesting.
I don't know about this.
Because they basically, I think the SEC's taking the position that Bitcoin might fall under commodity and everything else is a security.
They've already ruled Bitcoin as currency, and thus Litecoin is also currency.
Yeah.
They've also declared Ethereum as a security.
Well, Ethereum is a travesty. That's what Ethereum is.
Anything that's proof of stake falls under, in my opinion, would fall under a security. If you can stake it and get a return on that for just having it sitting there, that's a security.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's, so, you know, from a protocol level, EOS is the only one that can challenge Ethereum. You know, because it's technically the only thing that could really, like, the network itself and the coin itself could power municipalities, you know, for their daily volume of transactions and their bandwidth needs. So, you know, Ethereum has its place as well, because it's a whole ecosphere of you know, app development,
right.
You know, art transaction, and then their contractual agreements. You know, the way the smart contracts are handled on the Ethereum network for business transactions. Like if you're trying to sell real estate, if you're trying to sell your property with Bitcoin, you want an Ethereum smart contract to process that transaction. True. You don't want that to just be solely on the Bitcoin network.
True.
You know, so don't compare Ether to Bitcoin in terms of
they're not
currency value.
They're not the same thing at all. Like Bitcoin
is purely a currency. Yeah, exactly. So Ethereum's like an entire you know, societal system basically. It's got the apps, it's got the art, it's got the smart contracts, it's got you know, various programs, all this kind of stuff, and you know, Bitcoin doesn't do that. Ethereum does it very well.
Very well. So does Solana. There are a couple others like that too.
Yeah.
When you said like art transactions.
And the final one, the final story on this, a man named Richard Schuler, aka Richard Hart, was sued by the SEC for fraud with his hex and pulse chain. And
I saw that.
Yeah,
see how that goes.
I didn't know you were telling me at one point, Jake. You're like, just take a look at it.
Who cares what the SEC says? Who gives a rat's ass what the SEC says?
I tried to watch a little bit on it. I'm like, this is the biggest scam I've seen in forever.
Yeah, the SEC has a great track record. We'll see how it shakes out in the end.
The whole promise was, it's just designed to go up in value by doing nothing.
What?
That was the whole pitch.
No, it was not. All right, let's go to the funny stuff.
Brought up together so they're comfortable living to one another. Bringing in a new female would probably create tension, and that would probably mean they would start
fighting.
Exactly.
Wouldn't they?
So you don't do it. Enough. No.
You are a little beggar, aren't you?
Everyone needs to love you, and you just need to stop, okay? He does this. He sort of like goes behind, rears up, and so he's naughty.
Like, oh. He was covering it at first because he was worried, and then as soon as he took his hand away, the goat saw his opportunity.
I've been in that position, and your reflex is to push it away, push it back, And
you got to do the jujitsu and turn them to the side.
It sees that as a challenge. The only thing you can do is like get big and loud or squirt it with water. Because otherwise, like seriously, like if a ram or a goat or anything like that is trying to gore you like that, trying to hit you in the balls,
you jump over them.
You know, if you push it or punch it in the face or any of that stuff, like you're going to score some points, but it's coming with the heat.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you don't turn and run from some animals too. It's like a similar kind of a thing. It feels
the only thing you do is like
around,
like absorb the hit and then like either scream at it and like wave your arms or squirt it with water. You know, otherwise, get the hell out of that pen because that thing's going to mess you up.
When I was a kid, like a teenager, I had like a pet deer. Basically, like my grandparents had a wildlife rehab center. And there was this deer that they like nursed back to health in the backyard. And it was like the kind of one that like for years it couldn't leave because it was just too weak to go. But then it started to get stronger. And when it was had its horns coming in, it used to love to like play with you. Like, and we were like basically friends. And I used to wrestle with him with his like hold his antlers and everything. And he's like looking for that, like the resistance. You know, they like rub on trees and everything. And until he got too big, it was a lot of fun. But then he started to get too big, and then my grandparents were like, "Okay, we got to get rid of this deer because he's knocking everyone over."
Right to the.
But it was a fun time.
I love it. All right, let's hit play, Zach.
I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question. So I'm applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know: are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being on time? And then when we were done, they actually started yelling at me and saying that accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist. And if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job.
This person's dead serious right now.
Being late's a disability?
Well, how about this? Telling the girl that, you know, I have just this like specific disability where I can't check my phone for days on end when I'm on a trip with the boys.
I have text blindness.
I have text blindness. I'll tell you what kind of blindness I have when we're out at the bar and one of my boys is doing something bad. When your boy is up to no good, you go, what the fuck? Where is I have Mike blindness. When, Mike's doing something maybe he shouldn't be doing.
I have a blindness to when someone's breaking the law and it's not actually hurting anybody.
There we go.
There you go. I'm just Ray Charles of that stuff, man.
I have tax blindness.
Yeah.
I just think it was hilarious that girl was serious, that she thinks it's called time blindness. And she uses that as an excuse to be late to everything.
I have two things to say to this, and one on each side of this.
Yeah.
I have flaming ADHD, like to the max.
We know that. Everyone knows
very much have. This is why I have like the alarms going off, and I have to turn them off for the session because I have like 31 alarms in my phone where I will forget to eat in the day. I'm not kidding. Like, and so I very much, if this is a thing, I have it, but also I was almost never late to work. And so because we have these tools, we have alarm clocks and things or whatever. So I'm not going to say it's not a thing because I do think it like is a thing, but then it's up to you as a responsible adult to work through them.
But it's not called time blindness. Let's be real.
I don't know what that's
idiotic.
Is,
it's not a disease. It's not that you have time blindness. It's that you have ADHD and your brain's doing a whole bunch of different things. That's not time blindness. That's
or
just
laziness,
semantics, whatever we're going to call it, whatever. But yeah,
accept responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
But Alden took the other route where he sets alarms and accepts responsibility and does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah,
or you could be like Donald Trump, and you know you're playing 4D chess all the time, and you have time super awareness.
Sure.
And that's why you didn't show up at that scheduled time, is because you saw what happened ahead of that.
All right, this is an Atlanta joke for everybody watching.
What
are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
That's an everywhere joke.
That was going to say, honestly, that's pretty pertinent to a lot of.
Oh man, is that the porn guy, Beetlejuice?
The first guy about the damn Ashford Dunwoody exit is completely right, though.
Yes, it's horrible.
So you could maybe see my apartment building in that picture. I have to take the intersection between 285 and 400 every time that I go to work.
It's the worst. You don't know. You never know when it is. I have no idea.
Well, at least you're driving now.
All right, here we go. Last one.
Is it? Oh, is he keep splitting the soap? Like,
I This is an older one, but I cry laughing every
This is
time.
classic, dude. I love this.
He's reading the shampoo bottle.
It's so good. This is a classic, man.
It's so
He gets
good.
so mad.
Oh my god. What kind of shampoo is this, yo?
Oh, this is great. I wonder how long this happens before the guy actually notices.
I don't know. Do you think you get your ass beat doing that though? Like,
yeah, if you can see through all the soap.
It has to be fake though. There's no way you could. It's hilarious, but it's fake. It has to be.
No.
oh man,
That is
I don't even
one
care.
of the
if it's
largest
real or
men
not.
I've ever seen.
He's
so
huge.
funny.
He is a beast. I'd be terrified.
Nobody would mess with him. That's why it's fake. Nobody would mess with that guy.
I don't know. Have you seen the videos of like the scrawny guy that just like shoulders into the bodybuilders and just keeps walking?
Oh, that's
Never
so
seen
good.
that one. No.
I can't handle that video.
It's great.
All right, y'all. I really do got to get out of here, so we got to wrap this up.
Cheers, fellas.
Cheers, everybody. Everybody who's still watching, listening, thank y'all so much for joining us. We'll be back again next week. I won't be, but Steven is going to host next week. So make sure to tune into that. More Free Georgia podcasts coming your way. Thank y'all again for tuning in tonight. Matthew, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
buddy.
Had a good time.
Really appreciate it. The victor of trivia, dethroned Zane. It's a wonderful night. We should all celebrate.
It wasn't Taylor Swift trivia night.
All right. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you next week. Peace.